Chapter 885. This cake was originally for her. Su Peijian stood there and didn't move. She looked at Ling Jing and didn't react for a moment. The shop assistant said that this cake was for his girlfriend. Ling Jing said that this cake was for her. When did she become his girlfriend? Did she admit it? Su Peijian didn't answer and didn't speak. Ling Jing looked at her. The shop assistant had already packed the cake and placed it on the counter. Su Peijian didn't reach out to take it. She glanced at Ling Jing and turned to leave. Ling Jing quickly grabbed her hand and put the box of cake in her hand. Here. Su Peijian's hand shrank and the cake almost fell to the ground. Ling Jing caught it in time. He looked at Su Peijian as if he was wronged. Don't you want it? Who wanted it? She wasn't his girlfriend. Ling Jing held her hand and walked to a chair to sit down. The moment he held her hand, Su Peijian instinctively wanted to shake him off, but because they were in his shop, she didn't want to embarrass him too much in front of everyone. Ling Jing placed the cake on the table and gestured for the shop assistant to pour Su Peijian a hot drink. The shop assistant quickly brought a cup of hot cocoa over. Ling Jing placed the hot drink in front of Su Peijian. Ling Jing waved his hand and the shop assistants went to the kitchen. One of the shop assistants even closed the door for them and hung the closed sign outside. Peijian. What do you think of this place? Su Peijian didn't speak. Ling Jing kept holding her hand. She wanted to pull it out, but he was stronger. I've been thinking. The reason why you won't forgive me is because you think I lied to you. Later, I figured it out. If you think I lied to you, then I won't lie to you. You once said that being a baker is good. Now I realize that it feels good too. I've learned to make this cake for more than a month, and now it's beginning to pay off. Actually, I made many before. But I think the taste is a little bad, so I didn't put it out every time I made it, and I never thought of giving it to you. The one you're looking at now is the best one I've made recently. Su Peijian was silent, her lips pursed into a straight line. The last time I went to your house, I didn't lie. I was really chased out by my old man. Because I told him that I would rather be your gigolo than inherit the family business. Su Peijian finally looked at him. Ling Jing spread his hands. I'm serious. You may not believe me. But I'm really bored. You probably don't know, but my old man is my father. He has 5 illegitimate children. I am his youngest child. Speaking of which, I am also an illegitimate child. Su Peijian furrowed her brows slightly. This time, she forcefully pulled her hand back, but she didn't leave. Instead, she picked up the cup of hot cocoa in front of her. Now that I think about it, it should be 2 years ago. When you saw me more than a year ago, I was betrayed by my most trusted subordinate. He took money from my good brothers, and after he betrayed me, he stabbed me. Su Peijian had never heard him mention this before. She looked up at him, still expressionless. After I was betrayed, I met you. Although you saved me, I really didn't trust you. At first, I didn't want to reveal my identity. Later, you actually treated me as a hooligan, a gigolo, and I was a little angry. So at that time, I really wanted to cheat you. But later, the more I spent time with you, the more I liked you. In the end, I realized that I couldn't let go of you. At that time, I was actually very afraid. Don't laugh at me. I was really afraid. I was afraid that you would hate me, and I was afraid that you wouldn't forgive me. That's why I made that request to you. I hope you can promise me something. You promised me, and I thought I had a gold medal to avoid death. But the truth is, I didn't expect you to bump into my mother looking for me in advance. That day, I wanted to explain it to you. But I didn't expect to receive those photos from that bastard, Hui Yifan. I was angry at the time. On one hand, I hate you and him. I hate that you still have contact with him. On the other hand, I don't really believe it. That you would give up Hui Yifan and choose a hooligan like me. I know that you're not that kind of person. But at that time, I really lost my mind. I'm sorry. Peijian, I admit that I didn't understand love before. Although my mother loved my father very much, she never agreed to marry him. She would rather let me be an illegitimate child than marry my father. And my father said that he loved my mother very much, but he openly let his illegitimate children jump in front of my mother every day. Those brothers of mine. On the surface, they were friendly and respectful to me, but in fact, all of them wanted me dead. They were jealous that I was born as the young master of the Ling family, and they resented that I was favored by the old man. They were even jealous that I had my mother's concern for me. Because the condition for them to enter the Ling family was that their mother had nothing to do with them. With these brothers around, no matter how much my mother cared for me, she still cared about the other children's thoughts. Ever since I was a child, I have never received much love from my parents. I said that day that my mother never gave me a bowl of rice or a bowl of soup. I'm not joking, I'm serious. Maybe she loved me, but her love was too weak. Most of the time, I didn't feel it at all. She also didn't teach me how to love someone. I really didn't know. What is love? How do you love someone? Ling Jing said so much in one breath, and finally looked at Su Peijian. I don't understand. I don't understand, so I lost you. I know that I didn't do a lot of things well in the past, and I admit it. So, can you give me a chance on account of the fact that I've already started to change? If you like me when I was a hooligan, then Peijian. I'm willing to be a hooligan again for you, to be the pretty boy you like again. If that's the case, can you give me a chance? Let me be with you again. Ling Jing's words were sincere. Su Peijian didn't have any reaction. He had gotten the wrong direction. She had never liked gangsters, but Ling Jing, who was a gangster. I've been looking for you before, and I've been telling you that I want to start over with you. But you didn't want to. Peijian, if you don't want to start over with Ling Jing, the young master of the Ling family, can you start over with Ling Jing, the hooligan? Look, I can do as we said before. I'll be a baker. I can make dessert for you. Then you can help me open my shop all over the country. What do you say? No. Su Peijian pursed her lips into a straight line. According to Ling Jing, his family's situation was complicated enough. Under such circumstances, she didn't believe that Ling Jing's father would let Ling Jing fool around outside. Peijian? Okay. Don't ask me. That's your business. Su Peijian finally reacted. She stood up and said, do whatever you want. It has nothing to do with me. But I hope it has something to do with you. Ling Jing stood up as well. Didn't you tell me? Besides, I wanted to learn baking because of you. I said it has nothing to do with me. Su Peijian's words were obviously lacking confidence. She realized this herself and couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. Thank you for the hot drink. And the cake, how much is it? I'll give you the money. Peijian. Ling Jing's expression suddenly became extremely aggrieved. Do you have to do this? The look in her eyes made Su Peijian think that she and Ling Jing had returned to the past. But they couldn't go back. This cake was originally for you. It was made for you by me. If you don't want it, then throw it away. Ling Jing seemed to say this in a huff. Su Peijian looked at him and didn't throw the cake away. Thank you for the cake. Without saying anything more, Su Peijian picked up the cake on the table and turned to leave. Ling Jing followed behind her. Why don't you tell me, what do you want to do to forgive me? I really can't find a way anymore. Su Peijian, can't you just give me a quick death? Ling Jing, don't do these things. Don't be a baker. Don't waste his time here. He should go back to the Ling family and continue to be the glorious young master of the Ling family. Then tell me, what are you going to do? I don't need you to do anything for me. The flamboyant, wild, and carefree Ling Jing was himself. He didn't need to be someone else. She didn't want to see Ling Jing like this either. Such a Ling Jing would make her unable to resist, would make her soft-hearted, and would make her want to let go. She wanted to give him a chance and do it again with him. But, he pulled her hand again, and this time, she shook him off with much less force. No buts. Su Peijian hurriedly pushed open the door and left. She walked very fast, as if some monster behind her would catch up with her. So she didn't see the smile that flashed across Ling Jing's eyes. Su Peijian probably didn't even notice the loosening and struggle in her eyes. However, he noticed it. Ling Jing took off his chef's uniform and casually took off his chef's hat and put it aside. Looking at the shop in front of him, he wasn't in a hurry. The shop was already open, and he was just waiting for customers to come. Su Peijian passed by here every day, so he had a lot of opportunities. It was just a matter of time. He could afford to wait. When Su Peijian returned home, Xiang Kaiping asked about the cake. She casually said that she bought it when she passed by and saw it looked good. She gave the cake to Xiang Kaiping, but she didn't want to talk to her at all. However, when Xiang Kaiping opened the cake and asked her to eat it, she should have refused, but in the end, she still cut a piece. There was a very delicate fork inside the cake. When she ate the cake, the taste was not as good as that of a star chef, or even better than that of a bakery. However, this cake was made by Ling Jing. Chapter 886. This name turned over in her heart. Some sweet, some sour, and some emotions. She didn't even know herself. This cake isn't as delicious as the one you bought last time. Let's buy the one you bought last time. Not only could she taste it, but Xiang Kaiping could also taste it. Su Peijian didn't say anything. Up until now, Ling Jing has only learned for a month at most. How delicious can she bake a cake? However, this cake was made by Ling Jing, so the meaning was somewhat different. Su Peijian ate the cake without tasting it. Ling Jing was serious, wasn't he? Or was he serious? He was joking. He couldn't be serious. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Su Peijian reminded herself not to believe what Ling Jing said. However, the next day, she couldn't help but pass by the so-called sincerity baking workshop again. The car was parked on the road. She could only see people walking inside, but she couldn't see if Ling Jing was inside. Realizing her actions, Su Peijian quickly left like a thief. When she arrived at the company, she told herself that she would never go there again. What about Ling Jing? Would he be a baker or a gangster? It had nothing to do with her whether he was the young master of the Ling family or a gigolo. Yes, that was it. Unexpectedly, Su Peijian received a package in the afternoon. Her secretary, Zhou Mei, sent it directly to her office. President Su, there's a package for you. My package? Su Peijian looked at the time. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. She remembered that she hadn't bought anything online recently. Leave it. But this is refrigerated food. If you don't eat it, you have to put it in the fridge. Refrigerated food? Su Peijian had a very bad feeling in her heart. She asked Zhou Mei to bring the package over. It was a small box and it was opened. There was a small box inside. A pink cardboard box. It was slightly cold. Su Peijian could roughly guess what was inside. She wanted to tell Zhou Mei to take it out and throw it away, but she resisted in the end. She opened it. Inside was a small heart-shaped cake. The simplest mousse cake was made into a heart shape. The chocolate coating looked very appetizing. What a beautiful cake. Zhou Mei looked at her. President Su, is this the afternoon tea you ordered? No. Su Peijian shook her head. If you like it, you can have it. Huh? Zhou Mei looked at Su Peijian, picked up the piece of cake, and left. Su Peijian watched as Zhou Mei turned and left. She wanted to stop her, but she swallowed her words. The next day, someone sent another cake over. Apart from the cake being different, there was also a card. Dessert is only sweet in the mouth, but I hope I can be sweet in your heart. Sour. Where did this sweetness come from? Su-Peijian stared at the card and threw it into the trash without a second thought. On the third day, there was a different kind of cake with a rose. The card attached was changed to, "May your mood bloom like a rose." Su-Peijian threw the card away again, but this time, she was more hesitant than the day before. On the fourth day, the cake was changed from red roses to yellow roses. The meaning of yellow roses is to ask for forgiveness. Can I beg for your forgiveness? Crazy. Su-Peijian held the card for a long time, then threw it into the trash can. On the fifth day, when Su-Peijian saw the blue rose, she wondered what else Ling Jing could say. Blue roses, mysterious, delicate, just like the feeling you give me. Su-Peijian closed her eyes, gave the cake to Zhou Mei, and continued to throw the card. On the sixth day, pink roses. Our memories from before. Many of them are pink. Don't you miss it? Why would she miss it? No matter how beautiful the memories were, they were built on deception. She wanted to forget it. The seventh day, the eighth day, the ninth day. Every day, there were different colors of flowers, and there were also different cakes and cards. Su-Peijian threw them all away and gave the cake to Zhou Mei. In fact, this was really a very subtle thing. If she really didn't want to see it, she could have not even opened it. Why would she need to see what Ling Jing had given her today? On the 10th day, Su-Peijian looked at the cake and immediately closed the lid. She looked at Zhou Mei. You can leave. Her movements just now were too fast, and Zhou Mei didn't see it clearly. However, when she saw Su-Peijian's appearance, she quickly left. After Zhou Mei left, Su-Peijian opened the box again. Her expression was very ugly. On the small cake, there were two entangled bodies. A man and a woman. That posture was very ambiguous. The man was on top, and the woman was below. That was not all. There was a sentence written in black chocolate on the cake. I miss you. Su-Peijian's face was red. She was angry. She took out the card inside. Even if she wanted to throw it away, the words on it still fell into her eyes. Shameless, dirty, shameless. Su-Peijian could no longer sit still. She stood up, and the card in her hand was crushed into a ball. She threw the card into the trash can, but she felt that it was not enough. She picked it up and tore it into pieces. It was so broken that it could no longer be put together. As for the cake, she threw it into the trash can without hesitation. The cake quickly changed shape, and the words on it were mixed with the person, no longer visible. This was not enough to vent her anger. Su-Peijian picked up her bag and keys and quickly rushed out of the office. She only had time to tell Zhou Mei before she left. In less than half an hour, she arrived at the bakery where Ling Jing was. Where is Ling Jing? The shop assistant saw her and was about to come up to greet her. Seeing her angry face, those people did not dare to provoke her at all. Su-Peijian went straight into the back kitchen. There were two bakers in the operation room at the back. They were shocked when they saw someone come in. Ling Jing, on the other hand, was much calmer. He waved his hand and signaled for them to leave first. He looked at Su-Peijian with a triumphant smile in his eyes. You're here? I just happened to be trying to make the latest bread. You can try it later. Who wanted to try it? Su-Peijian was furious. Ling Jing, have you played enough? How is it playing? Ling Jing looked at her with a hurt expression. I'm too sad when you say that. Can't you taste any changes in the cakes I gave you these days? Who wants to eat the cakes you made? I threw them all away. As soon as Su-Peijian finished speaking, she realized that she had been tricked by Ling Jing. She said that she threw the cakes away, which naturally meant that she did not see the card inside at all. However, wasn't her angrily running over just a way to expose herself? Su-Peijian's face turned green and white. She kept feeling that she had fallen into Ling Jing's trap. She glared at him hatefully, turned around, and was about to leave without looking back. How could Ling Jing let go of her, who had finally come to him? He grabbed her wrist and quickly pulled her into his arms. He had been here for a long time, and his body smelled like toast. It was a little sweet, and Su Peijian wanted to push him away. However, Ling Jing held her waist tightly and did not let her break free. "Did you see the card I wrote?" Su Peijian could not answer this. Ling Jing smiled like a fox who had succeeded in his plot. "Are you angry? You're shameless." "I'm just telling the truth." Ling Jing looked at her plump lips. He hadn't kissed her for a few days. He really missed her. He did what he thought. He lowered his head and gave her a kiss. The long kiss landed on her lips. It was as sweet and beautiful as he remembered it, making him unable to stop. Su Peijian struggled, but how could Ling Jing give her a chance to escape? He held the back of her head and deepened the kiss. Slowly, Su Peijian's struggle weakened. Her legs were weak. If it weren't for Ling Jing's hand behind her, she had no doubt that she would have slid to the ground. Ling Jing finished kissing her and stepped back a little. He pressed his forehead against hers and looked at her blurry eyes and slightly parted red lips. "I miss you. I miss your body, I miss your kiss, I miss your lips," he repeated what was written on the card. Then, he kissed her lips again. His lips were hot. "I haven't slept well during this period of time. Because I didn't hug you to sleep. I miss you very much. Really. Every day, I can only fall asleep when I fantasize about you. Every day, I have to look at your photo and imagine that you are under me. Only then can I fall asleep." Su Peijian was shocked by his shamelessness. She didn't know what she could say. She moved her body, but she could really feel Ling Jing's desire. What he said was true. "I'm addicted to you. You have to be responsible for me." You. Su Peijian really shouldn't be surprised that Ling Jing could be in heat anytime and anywhere. "Have you had enough? How can I?" Ling Jing held her waist so that she could fully feel his desire. "I can't wait to do you now. Ling Jing, let go of me." "I said I won't let go, and I won't let go. Today, you came to me on your own. Do you think you can escape? Are you crazy?" "I'm crazy. I'm going crazy because of you." Ling Jing buried his face in her neck, and his breath brushed against her cheek. "Do you know? How does it feel to think about you every day but not see or touch you? You probably don't know." He bit her neck. Su Peijian shrank her neck in pain, but Ling Jing bit her again. "Every day, I think that I should catch you and lock you up. I won't let you go anywhere, and I won't let you wear any clothes. The only place you can move is under me, on my bed." "Pervert." Su Peijian avoided his lips and stared at him, her eyes full of shock. Chapter 887. Turn his words into reality. Su Peijian's entire body began to tremble at the thought of it. She refused. Lunatic. Ling Jing was a lunatic right now. Drag. "Are you crazy?" Su Peijian struggled. "This is illegal." "Yes." Ling Jing looked at the mark on her stomach and couldn't help but bite it again, deepening the mark. "But compared to being crazy and breaking the law, which do you think is better?" "Lunatic." Su Peijian looked up at him. "Ling Jing, you'd better let go of me." "What if I don't let go? Then I'll never forgive you." She knew that Ling Jing could do it. He could really kidnap her, lock her up, and not let her have her freedom. But if that was really the case, she would rather die. "Ling Jing, if you really do that, I'll tell you. I'll never forgive you for the rest of my life. Never." Her powerful words made the teasing look on Ling Jing's face disappear. He stared at Su Peijian and slowly let go of her hand. Su Peijian took a step back as quickly as possible and then straightened her clothes. Ling Jing looked at her face, which was avoiding him as if he were a snake, and laughed mockingly. Su Peijian. He suddenly called her name very seriously. You took the initiative to come to me today. You haven't forgotten, right? She hadn't forgotten, but it was because of this that she hated, was annoyed, and was angry at herself for falling into his trap. I like you, I love you, I want to be with you. What's wrong with that? There was nothing wrong, but she didn't want to believe him anymore. She didn't say anything, but Ling Jing understood what she meant. He nodded. Okay. You don't forgive me and don't accept me anymore. Is that so? Su Peijian didn't say anything. Ling Jing approached her and added, You'll never give me a chance again, right? Su Peijian couldn't answer this. In fact, she was very conflicted. She was just frightened by Ling Jing's words just now. Then you can go. Ling Jing turned around. You can leave now. Leave this place and don't come looking for me again. Su Peijian couldn't believe that Ling Jing would let her go so easily. It was so easy that she stood there motionless. Su Peijian. Ling Jing suddenly looked at her, his eyes focused and serious. You said that you won't forgive me, that you don't want to be with me. So, I'm letting you go today. But if there is a next time, Su Peijian, I won't care if you forgive me or not. Don't even think about running away from me. What do you mean? Su Peijian blinked. When she realized what Ling Jing had said, her body froze. She didn't dare to move at all. This is the last chance I'm giving you. From now on, we will go our separate ways. You can leave now. That's it? Was it over? Su Peijian stared at him with her eyes wide open. There was a lump in her throat. She closed her eyes, turned around, and walked out without looking back. Ling Jing did not expect that she would actually not be reluctant to leave. One of his hands was clenched into a fist. Su Peijian, you'd better pray that you never meet me again in this lifetime. Otherwise, she would never be able to escape in this lifetime. Su Peijian's reaction was not to stay, but to run out like the wind. Ling Jing was left looking at her back. His face was terrifyingly gloomy. You want to let it go just like that? No way. Su Peijian, just you wait. Su Peijian came out of the bakery, her heart beating wildly. She pressed her hand to her chest and thought about what Ling Jing had said just now. Was he really going to let her go just like that? Why did she feel that it was unreal? This didn't seem like Ling Jing's style of doing things. He should be more persistent, more clingy, and more gloomy than this. However, no matter how much Su Peijian didn't believe it, Ling Jing really didn't appear again. The next day, no one sent cakes to her anymore. There were no cakes, no cards, no flowers. The office was quiet. Su Peijian had just finished another section of the work on her hands. She was more free than before. With more time, she felt an invisible loneliness that was quietly eroding her heart. She still went to work and got off work, but she would always look out of the window inadvertently. Those white clouds would transform into Ling Jing's face. When she got off work, she clearly didn't want to, but she couldn't help but go to the bakery. The business there seemed to be getting better and better, but she didn't see Ling Jing again. She didn't know whether she should be glad or disappointed. Time passed by in a flash and another half a month passed. Rome City finally began to feel like spring, and the temperature rose. Rome City held an Outstanding Entrepreneur Award ceremony. Su Peijian also received an invitation. When she arrived, she found that Hu Jinyao was also there. Not only him, but Tang Mohan, Lin Feixing, and the others were also there. After Su Peijian sat down, she found that Ling Jing was also there. She actually saw Ling Jing at such an event? Su Peijian's company wasn't in the top of the line in Rome City for the time being, so her seat was at the back. At the front were naturally Hu Jinyao, the Tang family, the Wan family, and the other aristocratic families. This corner was just enough for her to see Ling Jing, but Ling Jing couldn't see her. She watched as Ling Jing passed by in front of her and didn't look in her direction. Su Peijian didn't know whether she should feel relieved or disappointed. She didn't forget what Ling Jing said. He said that if she appeared in front of him again, he wouldn't let her go. But now, she didn't take the initiative to appear in front of him, but he ran in front of her. If they accidentally met later, would it count? There were two women next to her. She didn't know which company they were from. They happened to see Ling Jing come in. Do you see the man in the white suit? I see him. He's so handsome. He looks so good in white. Did you notice just now? He seems to have glanced in this direction. I saw it too. Ah, his eyes are so charming. Which company is he from? I don't know, but those who can come shouldn't be bad, right? Why don't we ask for his number later? You go and ask. Let's go together. Okay. His phoenix eyes are so charming. Yeah, I guess he must be very good looking when he smiles. And his figure is also very good. That's right. We must get his phone. Have more confidence. Although the conversation between the two women was very soft, Su Peijian still heard it because she was close. Did he look in this direction? Did he see her? Was he handsome? Indeed, she had to admit that Ling Jing had a very good appearance. Otherwise, why would she choose him in the first place? But so what if she chose him? He had nothing to do with her now. Su Peijian blinked. Everything was her own choice. She didn't regret it. If those women could chase Ling Jing away, it would be considered a good deed. So that he wouldn't harm others. Yes, that was it. The award ceremony was very boring. Su Peijian sat for a while, and her phone rang with a few text messages. When Su Peijian finished reading the text messages and looked up again, she found that Ling Jing's seat in front of her was no longer there. She was stunned for a moment and looked in that direction in a daze. After an unknown amount of time, the applause around her continued. She looked at Hua Jinyao, who was giving out the award, and suddenly couldn't stay any longer. She got up and walked outside. There were two exits in the conference center. She picked one of them and walked out. She had only taken 2 steps when her phone rang. A message came from the other end of the phone, and her phone almost flew out of her hand. What did you say? Say it again. Which hospital are you in? Tell me clearly. The 5th hospital? Where is the 5th hospital? Tell me. Su Peijian felt a headache coming on. She wanted to ask more, but the phone in her hand was taken away. Give me the address. Which floor? Which department? Okay, we'll be right there. She turned around and stared blankly at the man who had suddenly appeared. Ling Jing, who was wearing a white suit, stood in front of her. He looked at her with a serious expression. Let's go. The 5th hospital. Xiao Yi said that she is now in the emergency department. As Ling Jing spoke, he took 2 steps toward the door. Seeing that Su Peijian was still in a daze, he turned around, grabbed her hand, and led her outside. She should have shaken off his hand. Now, the two of them had nothing to do with each other. However, Su Peijian was confused by the news that Xiao Yi had just brought. She really didn't know what to say until Ling Jing stuffed her into the car. You are emotionally unstable now. It's better not to drive. His faint voice seemed to be explaining. Su Peijian didn't know what to say. The car drove to the hospital. She was very nervous and worried. Xiang Kaiping had just been in a car accident. She had been hit by a car. She didn't know what was going on now. She just felt very worried. Don't worry, Auntie will be fine. Su Peijian couldn't say anything. She looked in front of her and wished that the car could go faster. Ling Jing didn't let her down. The car arrived at the 5th hospital at the fastest speed. She rushed out of the car as soon as it stopped. Ling Jing followed behind her. Where is the emergency room? Tell me, where is the emergency room? Calm down. Ling Jing followed her and pressed her shoulder. He turned around and looked at the frightened but understanding nurse. Excuse me, where is the emergency room? That way. The nurse was fine. She had seen many anxious family members like this. Just turn right from here. Thank you. Ling Jing nodded and then led Su Peijian in the direction of the emergency department. When they went to the emergency department, they said that the patient had been sent to the operating theater. Ling Jing and Su Peijian rushed to the operating theater upstairs. A middle-aged man was waiting at the entrance of the operating theater. The other was the nanny hired by the family, Xiao Yi. Su Peijian rushed up when she saw Xiao Yi. How is my mother? Is she okay? I don't know. Xiao Yi was also scared. The doctor is checking on Auntie Xiang now. I don't know what will happen. Chapter 888. He was the one who hit her. At that time, Xiaoya still wanted to say something, but Su Peijian had already glared at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was startled by Su Peijian's gaze. He was wearing the uniform of a taxi company, and it was obvious that he was a taxi driver. It's not my fault. She dropped the things she bought on the ground. She suddenly rushed out to pick them up, and I couldn't stop in time. The driver was wronged. If he hadn't seen Xiang Kaiping fainting from the pain, he would have thought that he had encountered a scammer. He had just sent the guest off and had just started walking when he hit Xiang Kaiping. He drove so slowly, but Xiang Kaiping fell down just like that. What else could it be if it wasn't a scammer? But who knew that when he sent her to the hospital, the doctor would directly say that he was ready for surgery. He had been detained here by Xiaoya and refused to let him go. He still felt very wronged. It's like this. Xiaoya quickly grabbed the agitated Su Peijian. The weather is good today. I said that I would go out to buy groceries. Aunt Xiang said that she was bored and wanted to go with me. Then, when we passed by the fruit stand, Aunt Xiang saw that the oranges were very good and said to buy some. However, when we walked back, we were going to take a taxi, but the bag that Aunt Xiang was carrying was somehow torn. A few oranges rolled onto the road. I said that I would pick them up, but Aunt Xiang ran one step ahead of me. Then, she was hit. It really has nothing to do with me. The middle-aged man waved his hand. I drive very slowly. Didn't you hit someone even if you drove slowly? Xiaoya was furious. Just now, when they entered the hospital, the driver still wanted to run. It was she who kept holding him. Su Peijian didn't care. At this time, she couldn't calm down at all. You'd better pray that my mother is fine. Otherwise, this will not end. The middle-aged man had a bitter look on his face. He couldn't help but look at Ling Jing. Little brother, persuade your wife. It's really not my fault. I'm just a taxi driver. I have no money. Hearing the word wife, the corners of his mouth rose a little. Su Peijian glared at the driver. Who are you calling his wife? Not wife? The taxi driver nodded. That's good. You're so fierce. What did you say? Say it again. You hit my mom, and you're still in the right? All right, all right. Ling Jing looked at Su Peijian and nodded at the middle-aged man. He turned to look at Su Peijian and patted her on the shoulder. Calm down. Auntie will be fine. Su Peijian couldn't calm down at all. She glanced at Ling Jing and stopped talking. However, she sat there in a very bad state. Her face was full of anxiety. Sister Su. Xiao Yi was a little frightened. Just now, she only cared about holding on to the driver to prevent him from running away. She didn't pay attention to the doctor's words. Sorry, I didn't take good care of Auntie. Su Peijian didn't say anything. She knew Xiang Caiping's personality. Even if he succeeded in starting his own business and made money, he still retained his old habits. He was reluctant to eat and wear. It's none of your business. Ling Jing waved to her and said, "Go and clean up. I don't know what's going on here." No matter what the situation is, since she has undergone surgery, she should be hospitalized. Go back and bring her a change of clothes and some daily necessities. Cook some porridge when you come over. All right. I'll go now. Xiao Yi heard this and left. The driver stood there at a loss. Ling Jing glanced at him and said, "Although you said that it's not your fault, we have to wait for the traffic police to determine who is responsible for the accident. Do you agree?" "Yes, I agree. But it really has nothing to do with me." She suddenly rushed out, and she was squatting there. I didn't see her at all. The middle-aged man kept explaining. Ling Jing glanced at him and said, "You go first. I'll let the traffic police know if there's any result." "Okay. Thank you. Sir, you're really a good person. We're taxi drivers. A delay will cost us a lot of money." As he spoke, he glanced at Su Peijian again and said, "I really didn't mean to hit your mother." Ling Jing didn't say anything. She just waved her hand and the man left. The corridor became quiet. Su Peijian sat there motionlessly as if she had lost all her strength. Seeing her like this, Ling Jing helped her to sit on a bench nearby. "Calm down. Auntie will be fine." Su Peijian shook her head and didn't say anything. Seeing her like this, Ling Jing thought for a moment and reached out to pull her into his arms. "Don't worry, she will be fine. Didn't you hear what the driver said? He drove very slowly. I believe Auntie will be fine." "Will she really be fine?" Su Peijian looked at him as if she wanted a guarantee. "Definitely. Trust me." Ling Jing looked at Su Peijian and said, "You heard what the driver said. He drove very slowly. And the doctors are still trying to save her. I believe she will be fine." Su Peijian didn't say anything. She sat there and looked at the lights in the operating room. "You don't understand at all. You don't know anything. It had nothing to do with the speed of the car. When people were old, it was easy for them to have problems." Su Peijian let him hug her and didn't push him away. She had a car accident before and was almost paralyzed. Ling Jing didn't know about this. Su Peijian's eyes turned red and tears fell. "That car accident was actually because of me. If she hadn't caused trouble for Xiang Kaiping, she wouldn't have been pushed by Luo Meishan. And she wouldn't have had a car accident. She abandoned me at a very early age. I didn't like her before. After I met her, I despised her. I always felt that she wasn't good. She wasn't like me, not like my mother. She was noble and decent, and she spoke and did things with dignity. I always despised her for being stingy. I despised her for always scolding me. I even despised the guilty look in her eyes every time she saw me. She was always like that. She felt that I was in prison because of her. She felt that it was because she abandoned me and didn't take good care of me that I went down the wrong path. Actually, it wasn't like that." Su Peijian closed her eyes and said, "She was actually a very traditional and very pitiful woman. She just loved me. She just didn't know how to love me. When I came out of prison, she asked me what I wanted every day. She didn't have a car and couldn't bear to, but she bought me a car. She actually didn't know anything about cars. She heard that a Ferrari was good, so she bought a Ferrari. She didn't even think about whether it was suitable or not. She still does. I said I would give her a driver, but she didn't want it. She likes to go out in her own car every day. I treated her very badly, really." Su Peijian held Ling Jing's clothes, and her eyes were a little hot. "Do you know? I really didn't treat her well at all. But she never minded. She always felt that she wasn't good enough. She felt that it was all because of her." Su Peijian couldn't go on. She thought about it seriously. In the past 2 years, Xiang Kaiping had really given everything to her. But how much did she give back? If anything happens to her, I really, really won't forgive myself for the rest of my life. Tears blurred her eyes. Ling Jing looked at her and reached out to hold her tightly in her arms. It's okay, it's okay. She won't blame you. She loves you. She loves you. So she won't think about these things. Really? Yes. Ling Jing patted her back. All mothers are the same. Su Peijian's eyes were misty with tears. No matter how strong she was, she couldn't overcome the weakness in her heart. Xiang Kaiping was one of her weaknesses. She was separated from her daughter for the first half of her life. She finally found her daughter, but she wasn't close. She had even despised her before. Am I a terrible daughter? No. Ling Jing looked at her and raised her hand to wipe away the tears in her eyes. You are a very, very good daughter. Really? Yes. Ling Jing nodded. I think Auntie thinks so too. She will think that you are arrogant. Su Peijian didn't say anything. She had always been a very calm and rational person. After being comforted by Ling Jing, her emotions slowly calmed down. After calming down, she realized that the position she was in with Ling Jing now was, the two of them were leaning against each other. Her hands were still holding the front of Ling Jing's dress, and Ling Jing's hands were around her body. Su Peijian suddenly blushed. She stepped back a little. Ling Jing clasped her waist tightly, not letting her break free and leave. Ling Jing, I seem to remember saying that. Ling Jing held her waist with one hand and pinched her chin with the other to make her look at her. If you appear in front of me again, I won't let you go. Ling Jing. Su Peijian couldn't believe that he was still in the mood to talk about this at this time. My mother is in surgery. So what? Ling Jing raised his eyebrows and ignored her words. Auntie will be fine. And you, from now on, are mine. Su Peijian's lips moved, and it took her a long time to find her voice. It was you who appeared in front of me. So? Ling Jing looked at her with a touch of mockery in his eyes. So I forced you to get into my car just now. I forced you to grab my clothes and not let go. I forced you to cry in my arms. I didn't cry. You didn't cry. Ling Jing lowered his head and looked at the front of his dress that seemed to be wet by Su Peijian's tears. So, it's raining outside? I accidentally got the rain? Su Peijian's imposing manner weakened. She gritted her teeth and looked at Ling Jing, ashamed and annoyed. Ling Jing, my mother is still in surgery. At such a time, he was actually thinking about other things in his mind? Su Peijian was very angry. I know. Let's change to something fresh. Ling Jing stared at her face as if he wanted to swallow her into his stomach. Your mother is in surgery. You are mine. There is no conflict. What a rascal. Su Peijian waved his hand away. I'm not in the mood now. It doesn't matter. I'm in the mood. Ling Jing pinched her chin again. And, I can wait until you are in the mood. His eyes were burning, and the meaning revealed in them was very obvious. Chapter 889. Su Peijian knew this. For some reason, she didn't dare to continue to look at Ling Jing. She thought she would be angry, or at least scold him for being shameless. But she didn't want to say those words at first. She came back to her senses. In a short time, she just wanted Xiang Kaiping to be safe. Turning her face away from Ling Jing, Su Peijian just stared at the lights in the operating room. Ling Jing looked at her profile and didn't go any further. But he put his hand on her shoulder. Don't worry. Auntie is blessed. She will be fine. Su Peijian didn't speak. She leaned her back against Ling Jing's chest. His chest was warm and reliable behind her. She didn't know what she should say at this time, but she was willing to admit that she was at ease with Ling Jing there. Time passed minute by minute. Finally, the lights in the operating room dimmed. Su Peijian stood up immediately. When the doctor came out, she had already rushed over. Ling Jing followed behind her. Doctor? The patient is out of danger. The appendix has been removed. Pay attention to rest and diet for the next few days. She can be discharged after the sutures are removed. Su Peijian was stunned. She looked at the doctor blankly and couldn't react for a moment. What did you say? Appendicitis? Yes. The doctor glanced at the corridor. The patient had acute appendicitis. We've already operated to remove it. She will be fine soon. No. Su Peijian was shocked by this turn of events. Wasn't she hit by a car? Yes. The patient was hit by a car, but the car was slow and didn't hit her. It was just a touch. The patient happened to have acute appendicitis at that time. So when she was sent in, the doctor downstairs thought that she was hit by a car and suffered organ damage. But I am very responsible to tell you that the patient was not hurt. She just had a few more abrasions on her hands. Doctor, are you sure? My mother is so old. Are you questioning our professionalism? Okay, we got it. Thank you, doctor. Ling Jing spoke at the right time and held Su Peijian's shoulder. The doctor glanced at Su Peijian with a hint of disapproval in his eyes. Family member, let me tell you, this is a separate matter. If you were hit by a car, then you were hit by a car. Appendicitis is appendicitis. It's not right for you to try to blackmail me. Su Peijian glared at the doctor. Who was trying to extort money? She just didn't expect it. No one had made it clear just now. Thank you, doctor, thank you. I'm just worried, that's all. Knowing that Xiang Caiping's life was not in danger and that things were not beyond repair, Su Peijian breathed a sigh of relief. Only when he relaxed did he realize that his legs were a little weak. Ling Jing's hand on her waist supported her at the right time, giving her strength. She turned and glanced at him. His lips moved. Just as he was about to speak, Xiang Caiping was pushed out. With Ling Jing around, Su Peijian didn't have to worry about the rest. They arranged for him to be in a single ward and then hired a nurse. Not long after, Gu Xiu brought them lunch. Xiang Caiping was still under anesthesia, so she did not wake up. Su Peijian didn't have much of an appetite, but under Ling Jing's supervision, she managed to eat some. After lunch, the doctor came to see her again. He said that she was old and might wake up later, but it would be fine. Su Peijian thanked the doctor and continued to stay by Xiang Caiping's bed. This time, Xiang Caiping really scared her. She thought that she would rather hire 2 more people so that something like this wouldn't happen again. Here. Drink some water. Ling Jing's voice sounded very gentle at this time, completely different from the coldness when he threatened her just now. Su Peijian glanced at him and took the cup from his hand. When she took it, Ling Jing didn't let go of her immediately. She looked at him, and he was also looking at her. Under her gaze, he let go of her hand, bent down, and looked at her. Drink my water, and you are mine. Boring. Knowing that Xiang Caiping was fine, Su Peijian wasn't as nervous as before. Boring? Ling Jing tilted his head and bit her earlobe. Then do you want to do something interesting to talk about? Ling Jing, Su Peijian called him, and then lowered her voice. Are you crazy? They were in the ward, and Xiang Caiping was still sleeping. Yes, I'm crazy. You made me crazy. Ling Jing bit her earlobe again. She stared at him in pain. He tilted her chin up. Woman, I have never seen a woman like you, cold-blooded and heartless. I was thinking that if you appeared in front of me again, would definitely not let you go. Every day, I thought about how to make you come to me. I thought about it so much that I was going crazy. But your heart is made of ice. You can actually be so cold-blooded that you don't come to see me, don't come to me. So, do you think I will still let you go? Ling Jing opened his mouth and held her earlobe in his mouth. This time, even if I go crazy, I will drag you along with me. He was really crazy. Su Peijian looked at him, not knowing how to respond to his words. Afraid? Who's afraid? So you're scared? Ling Jing, I'm not that timid. Then why don't you respond to me? Why should I respond to you? Su Peijian realized that she was actually arguing with Ling Jing, and her expression turned ugly. Get out. This is my mother's ward. Yes, it's your mother, but she's also my mother-in-law. Who are you calling mother-in-law? Su Peijian's face turned green. I'm calling whoever it is. Ling Jing smiled, especially when he found out that Su Peijian's sadness had disappeared because of him. Instead, she felt helpless and angry. Shameless, rogue. Su Peijian really hated that she was too well educated and learned too little to swear. Get out. This is my mother's ward. You are not welcome here. Why me? Ling Jing sat down next to Su Peijian. I asked Gu Xiu to arrange this ward before. As soon as Su Peijian entered the hospital and found out that something had happened to Xiang Kaiping, she was stunned. She didn't care about her own condition at all, let alone arranging a ward. Her calmness, which she had always been proud of, was indeed useless today. In fact, there was one thing that she hadn't realized yet and was unwilling to admit. That was because Ling Jing was there. That inexplicable sense of security made her feel at ease to trust Ling Jing and believe that he would do other things well. In fact, Ling Jing had indeed done it. He had taken care of all these things. She could just stay in this ward and watch over Xiang Kaiping. She didn't speak. Ling Jing raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a smile of success. In the evening, when Xiaoyi packed up and brought things to them, Xiang Kaiping finally woke up. As soon as she woke up, she saw Su Peijian. Peijian? You. Mom, how are you? Hearing Xiang Caiping's somewhat hoarse voice, she quickly got up and turned to look at Xiaoyi. She was about to ask her to pour a glass of water, but Ling Jing had already poured a glass of warm water and put it in her hand. She glanced at Ling Jing, picked up the glass of water, and walked to Xiang Kaiping. Mom, drink some water first. After feeding Xiang Kaiping the glass of warm water, she had just put her hand back, but Ling Jing had already taken the glass. Su Peijian looked at Ling Jing deeply. Not only was she looking at her, but Xiang Kaiping was also looking at her. Jing? Why are you here? Mom. How are you? Auntie, you were hit by a car. Do you remember? Ling Jing smiled and stood beside Su Peijian. The doctor said you had acute appendicitis. He has already performed surgery on you. How are you feeling now? Me? Appendicitis? Xiang Kaiping thought for a moment. It seemed to be true. At that time, she was going to pick up oranges, but as soon as she bent down, her stomach started to hurt. Later, a car came, and she instinctively stepped back. She was fine, but her hand was bruised. Later, her stomach started to hurt even more. She didn't know what happened after that. I'm fine. Maybe the anesthesia hasn't worn off yet. I don't feel any pain now. Xiang Caiping's words made Su Peijian breathe a sigh of relief. She was about to speak when Xiang Kaiping didn't forget her question. Jing, why are you here? Xiang Kaiping looked at Ling Jing and then at Su Peijian, who was standing next to him. Auntie, when you were in the car accident, I happened to be with Peijian. As soon as I heard, I came over. You're with Peijian? Did this together mean what she thought it meant? Mom. You. Don't listen to that nonsense, okay? Yes. Ling Jing smiled, as if a little embarrassed. Auntie, Peijian and I, we actually, Peijian, you. Xiang Kaiping looked at Ling Jing. Su Peijian had clearly said that she wasn't interested in him before. How did the two of them get together after she was hit by a car? Mom, don't listen to his nonsense. It's not like that. Auntie. It's my fault. Ling Jing lowered his head, and there was a hint of bitterness in his expression. I was driven out by my father. Now I have no home and no job. It's understandable that Pei-Jin feels that I don't deserve her. Su Pei-Jin stared at Ling Jing with her eyes wide open. Could he be any more nonsense? Pei-Jin? Xiang Kaiping looked at Su Pei-Jin, but she didn't doubt Ling Jing's words. Su Pei-Jin grew up in the Su family, so she had high standards, but, Pei-Jin, Ling Jing is a good girl. He can slowly earn his career and so on. You. Mom. Su Pei-Jin wanted to refute, but seeing Xiang Caiping's weak and pale face, she said, Mom, you should rest first. You just had an operation. You need more rest. No. You and Jing, I support Jing. If you don't like him, it's fine. If you like him, don't look at those external conditions for the time being. Xiang Kaiping had just had an operation, but in her opinion, her health was not as important as her daughter's happiness. Mom, it's not what you think. It's really not. Ling Jing put one hand on Su Pei-Jin's shoulder, looked at Xiang Kaiping, and sighed. Originally, I took the money to open a bakery, but Pei-Jin doesn't seem to like it. I'm planning to do something else. Chapter 890. His voice was very soft, but Su Pei-Jin immediately blushed. What? Was that Xiaoya's voice? When she looked at Xiang Kaiping again, her understanding gaze made her feel uncomfortable. Mom, don't say it, I understand. Seeing Su Pei-Jin's red lips, what else could she not understand? She thought that Su Pei-Jin was really willing, but she didn't know that they were just quarreling. Look, her mouth was swollen. One could imagine how intense it was. Xiang Kaiping had an expression that said, Don't say it, I understand. Su Pei-Jin's explanation was stuck in her throat, and she couldn't say a word. Come here. Su Pei-Jin wanted to stop her, but Ling Xiang had passed. Su Pei-Jin wanted to stop him. Xiang Kaiping held his hand with a warm expression. Pei-Jin is actually a good child. Auntie, I know. She's stubborn and a little hot-tempered. You have to be tolerant. That's only natural. Ling Xiang smiled. If I don't tolerate her, who should I tolerate? Good, good, good. You're a good child too. I know. Xiang Kaiping patted the back of Ling Xiang's hand with relief. The back of Ling Xiang's hand. It was a scene of a kind mother and filial son. Su Pei-Jin was speechless. Forget it. Let him be. However, when she heard the next topic, she couldn't help it. You don't know, I've always regretted not watching Pei-Jin grow up. It's okay, Auntie. You can accompany her every day now. I know. But a miss is a miss. I'm afraid there's no way to make up for this regret in this life. Yes, Ling Xiang retorted. When Pei-Jin has a child, you can watch the child grow up. Won't that make up for this regret? Yes, yes. Xiang Kaiping suddenly became happy, and her eyes lit up. She felt as if her body didn't hurt anymore. You don't know, I can like children. Pei-Jin's sister has 2 children at home, a boy and a girl. They're very cute. Okay, Pei-Jin and I will have a pair for you to play with. Su Pei-Jin sat behind the two, trying hard to control her expression. Was that child meant to be played? 2-inch I'm not greedy. Xiang Kaiping waved her hand. I like both boys and girls. As long as she's willing to give birth, even if it's just one, I'll be happy. I will, Auntie, don't worry. Su Pei-Jin, I didn't hear anything, I didn't hear anything, I didn't hear anything. Auntie, when the time comes, we'll have 2, a boy and a girl. If one isn't enough, we'll have 2 until you're satisfied. Don't make me laugh. I still have wounds. Look at me, talking too cheerfully. To tell you the truth, I also quite like children. Hurry up and rest. Take good care of yourself. When the time comes, you will have the strength to help me and Peijian take care of the child. Su Peijian, appendectomy was considered a minor surgery. Even if Xiang Kaiping was getting on in years, Su Peijian and Ling Guang would not be able to help her. He was worried and wanted her to stay for a few more days. She couldn't stay in the hospital forever. The weather warmed up. Xiang Kaiping stayed in the hospital for a full 9 days. God knew how many resources had been wasted. She felt that it was okay and agreed to let her leave the hospital. Xiang Kaiping didn't want trouble, so Su Peijian didn't tell Su Qingsang and the others about her hospitalization. From the time she was admitted to the time she was discharged, only they knew. However, Xiang Kaiping was very satisfied. Because she stayed in the hospital for a few days, she felt that her relationship with her daughter was much closer. It didn't matter that they were close. Ling Kaiping ran around every day. She saw it and was satisfied in her heart. This son-in-law. Good, it was really good. It couldn't be better. Especially Ling Kaiping. Coupled with Su Peijian's good looks, Xiang Kaiping couldn't help but start thinking about how beautiful their child would be. As soon as she returned home, she began to be restless. She bought some wool and began to prepare to knit a sweater for the baby. Su Peijian began to busy herself again after Xiang Kaiping was discharged. Xiang Kaiping's accident this time had frightened her, even though she had Ling Xiaoyu. Although Ling Kaiping ran around, she almost stayed in the hospital whenever she had time. His company had delayed a lot of work. These days, she didn't know what Ling Kaiping was busy with. No one came to disturb her, so she had time to finish her work. However, when she returned home one day, she saw Xiang Kaiping knitting a sweater. There was only a small circle, and it looked very small. "Mom, didn't you just leave the hospital? Why are you knitting? Rest more if you have nothing to do. The doctor told you to rest. Didn't you hear him? I can't sit still." Xiang Kaiping waved her hand. "Rest? What rest? Such a small incision, it's a joke." Su Peijian sat there and wanted to say something. Looking at the light yellow wool flying up and down, she asked casually. "Knitting a scarf? So small? You child, why are you knitting a scarf? If you want to knit, you should knit a scarf." Xiang Kaiping couldn't hide the smile on her face when she thought about the fat grandson she could hold in her arms in the future. "I knitted this for my little grandson. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but this light yellow is very good. Both boys and girls can wear it." For a moment, Su Peijian thought she was hearing things. Ling Kaiping? Didn't they all leave? Why was Xiang Kaiping still in her dream? "Mom, this. Why didn't I know?" "Don't worry. Ling said that he was kicked out by his parents. Even if he goes back in the future, he won't let them take care of the child, so he asked me to help. I will definitely help. He has already thought about it. He is afraid that I will be tired, so he said that he will hire a nanny when the time comes. I just need to look after my eldest grandson every day." Xiang Kaiping had already begun to imagine what would happen after Su Peijian gave birth. Su Peijian's lips moved. Looking at Xiang Kaiping, who was immersed in her imagination, she finally swallowed the rest of the words. "As long as you are happy." Anyway, she had not recovered yet. She was a patient, so she didn't mind. As for whether she would get married or have children, wasn't it up to her? "Happy, of course I am." Xiang Kaiping's hands didn't stop moving, and the smile on her face didn't stop. "I never dreamed that I would be able to wait until today." "Great, that's great." Su Peijian didn't know how to respond. Forget it, she couldn't continue the conversation. By the way. Xiang Kaiping glanced at Su Peijian when she was about to get up. "The wedding date? It depends on you. I think it's already March, and I think May is a good day. It's neither hot nor cold. Otherwise, why do so many people choose Labor Day to get married? Why don't you set it for Labor Day?" Su Peijian looked at Xiang Kaiping and said with a fake smile, "The Qingming festival seems to be closer." "Child, how can you say that? Who would pick the Qingming festival? If you don't like it, I will find a master later and tell him which day is better for you." Su Peijian's forehead began to hurt. She held it and forced herself to squeeze out a smile. "Mom, I was joking." Then about the marriage?" "Mom." Su Peijian swallowed and said calmly, "Of course, we have to be careful when it comes to the wedding. I will choose carefully, seriously, and carefully." That's good, that's good. Remember to choose a day that is good for both you and him. You know, you can't be careless when it comes to marriage." Xiang Kaiping was satisfied. Su Peijian turned her face, and the smile on her face disappeared. "Ling? You bastard." Su Peijian left the living room and took out her phone with a headache. She wanted to call Ling. She thought about it and decided not to. Why should she bother with that bastard? But if she didn't agree, what could he do? She calmed herself down and decided to ignore him. The next day, Su Peijian started to get busy when she went to the company. A few days ago, when she was taking care of Xiang Kaiping in the hospital, the company held a routine event about International Women's Day. The effect was good. Then, a counter's contract expired. It was a jewelry brand, and it was also a top brand. According to the contract, the rent was going to increase this year. However, the person in charge of the company didn't show up. Su Peijian had always been a straightforward person. She gave them a notice that they could either renew the contract or leave. However, for some reason, she didn't receive a reply from the other party until she got off work. Su Peijian decided to go there herself. It was almost time to get off work, and there were more people in the department store than before. Su Peijian went downstairs and was about to go to the jewelry counter to take a look. She saw that the hall of the department store was full of roses. The roses were circled around a small heart-shaped display stand. There was a red carpet on it. It wasn't a very big stand, and there were roses in the middle. The red roses didn't look like they were for publicity. Instead, they looked like they were for a wedding. Su Peijian took out her phone and called Zhou Mei. "Is there an event downstairs today?" "I don't think so." Usually, if someone wanted to hold an event or do any publicity in such a place, they had to get their consent. No. She didn't usually care about these small things, so she just asked. However, just as she was about to turn around and go to the jewelry store, she saw a drone suddenly appear in front of her. There was a box hanging under the drone. The box swayed with the body of the drone. The white body flew lightly in front of her, and she could hear a low buzzing sound in the air. She was shocked and took a step back. The plane flew a step forward. She frowned and took another step back. The drone took another step forward. Su Peijian looked at the drone. No matter how ignorant she was, she could tell that it was trying to stop her. She couldn't help but turn around to look at the stage. Who was playing a prank? However, in the time she turned around, the drone flew towards the stage. Su Peijian wanted to leave, but she saw the person who had appeared on the heart-shaped display stand take the small box from the drone. He let go of the drone and let it fly away. However, he held the box and walked towards Su Peijian step by step. Su Peijian stood there and didn't move. Chapter 891. Su Peijian already knew what Ling Xiang was going to do. She knew what Ling Xiang was going to do. This madman, no matter what he wanted to do, he would never tell anyone in advance. He had always been able to do whatever he wanted. It was like that when they were together, when they broke up, and when he proposed. Right now, she couldn't blame Ling Xiang. He made his own decision. She could only watch him walk towards her step by step. Ling Xiang? He held the small velvet box in his hand and stared at Su Peijian. "I know I'm not good enough at many things, but I will work hard. I will try to do better. I can't promise you that I'll love you forever. Because forever is too long, but I can promise that I will love you as long as I live. I also know that our beginning wasn't pleasant. So I want to give each other a chance, a new start. My name is Ling Xiang. I'm 25 years old. Su Peijian, I love you. Please marry me. He was talking about Ling Xiang. There was nothing else, just a simple Ling Xiang. She opened the box in front of her. The ring inside was dazzling, and the huge diamond was very dazzling. Ling Xiang? He knelt down on one knee and raised the ring. Give me a chance, and give you a chance. Marry him, marry him. From Ling Xiang? People surrounded him as soon as the proposal began. Now, he had reached the pinnacle. It was after work, but there were also many housewives and office workers. Many young girls' eyes were already shining. They clapped their hands. Su Peijian looked at the ring and wasn't in a hurry to reach out. She was surrounded by the voices of marrying him, but she wasn't moved. She just stared at Ling Xiang. She didn't speak, but the expression in her eyes. Ling Xiang understood. He pointed to the side. He pointed to the side where someone was filming with a mobile phone. Today, I'm kneeling here. Every word I say is my oath. I'm responsible for every word I say. He turned his gaze and looked at Su Peijian. You can save the video. If I don't do it, you can do whatever you want to me. I can also sign a contract. All the property under my name will belong to you. Enough. Su Peijian could already hear the cheers around her. Get up. Promise me first. Get up first. If you don't agree, I won't get up. I can keep kneeling here. Marry him, marry him. The voices around her continued. Su Peijian bit her lip. He glared at Ling Xiang. This was her workplace, yet he put himself in such a position. Are you forcing me? No, Ling Chen said. Shaking his head, he said, I'm trying to make you recognize your own heart. I know you love me. An egomaniac. Since you're so confident. Su Peijian was so angry that she almost laughed. Well, if you kneel here for 3 days, I'll promise you. All right. Ling? He nodded and didn't object. However, Su Peijian heard boos from the crowd. There were also many whispers. The general content was not difficult to guess. It was nothing more than saying that she did not know what was good for her. But why? He wanted to propose, and she had to marry him? Didn't he like acting? She wanted to see if he could act to the end. He turned around and went upstairs without any hesitation. However, when she pressed the elevator button, she looked back coldly when she met the gaze of others. The girl was frightened by her. She shrank her neck and instinctively took a step to the side. Su Peijian ignored her and went upstairs to deal with the rest of the work. Then, she cleaned up until there was nothing left to do. The sky outside had begun to darken. Su Peijian planned to go home. The elevator went straight down to the underground parking lot, but Su Peijian's hand touched the first floor gently. She was just careless. She thought that she just accidentally pressed the button. She soon arrived at the first floor. There were still many people outside. No, more than before. Because it was time to get off work. That man was still there. He squatted and looked in the direction of the elevator. Wow, so affectionate. What a handsome man. If he wanted to marry me, how could I bear to let him kneel? Yes, yes. I'd even be willing to pay. He's really so handsome. Did you notice? His eyes are so charming. Su Peijian listened to the words around her expressionlessly, her hands clenched into fists by her sides. Finally, he took a deep breath, squeezed through the crowd and reached Ling Xiang. He stood by her side. Are you done playing? You're back. Ling? She looked at Su Peijian with an aggrieved expression and said, Don't worry, I promised you that I would kneel for 3 days, and I will do it for 3 days. However, can you buy me some food? After all, if I get up to buy food, it will be against the rules you mentioned. Crazy. Su-Peision looked at him. Get up. No. If you don't agree to marry me, I won't get up. Get up first. I don't, get up and I'll promise you. Really? Ling? His eyes suddenly lit up. He wanted to stand up, but he fell to the ground. You. Su-Peision squatted down immediately. What happened to you? My legs are numb. Looking at Su-Peision, he did not forget to hand over the ring on his finger. You promised me. This guy. She was really going to eat him up. Before Su-Peision could speak, Ling. He hurriedly put the ring on Su-Peision's finger. You promised me. You can't go back on your word. I said get up. My legs are numb. Ling. Extremely aggrieved. Su-Peision resisted the urge to lose her temper and reached out to help him up. Is this okay? At most, I need a kiss from you. Ling. Su-Peision gritted her teeth. Ling. Don't push your luck. I didn't. Ling looked innocent. Poor me, I knelt for more than an hour and didn't drink a single drop of water. Poor me, I'm hungry, thirsty, and tired now. I can't even get a kiss. His lips were blocked, and Su-Peision kissed the rest of his words. There was applause around. Ling? He couldn't care less. Flowers were blooming in his heart. He only felt that the whole world was filled with pink bubbles. He was so happy that he wanted to get high. Very quickly, he turned from passive to active. Su-Peision was out of breath from his kiss. In the end, she still cared about where she was and gently pushed his chest. Ling? He let go of her and hugged her again. His chin was pressed against her neck, and there was a touch of excitement in his seemingly smiling eyes. Woman, you are mine. It was a very simple announcement. From now on, Su-Peision could no longer think about escaping. Su-Peision's body stiffened for a moment, but only for a moment. Soon. She relaxed. She was his, and in turn, he was hers. In this life, she was sure that she would never fall for a second man. She was also sure that she had feelings for Ling. Indeed, she couldn't let go of him. Since that was the case, why should she be conflicted? Let it be. Very good. On the other side, someone on Weibo posted the scene of Ling. The proposal scene was uploaded. Soon, the whole Rong city knew about it. Su Qingsang and Su Chenghui were fine. Su-Peision always had her own ideas. If it was her own idea, there was nothing to say. However, the Ling family was a different story. Ling Xian looked at the video in front of him and then looked at the investigation information about Su-Peision on the table. He felt suffocated and angry. What is this? What is going on? He looked at Lu Xian. I can't control him if he wants to get married, right? Our son is grown up. He has his own ideas. Don't interfere too much. How can I not interfere? Ling Xian was very angry. Have you seen this woman's experience? What is that? She has been in prison. Ling? Do you agree to marry such a woman? What's the point of me not agreeing? Lu Xiyun looked at him. I want to disagree, but Ling gave me this chance. You gave me this chance, didn't you agree? I don't agree anyway. Ling Xian was furious. A woman who has been in prison wants to marry into our family? Dream on. Don't talk about going to jail so easily. How many of your subordinates have been to jail before? How can that be the same? I don't see anything different. Lu Xiyun poured a cup of tea and placed it in Ling Xian's hand. Don't be angry. Our son said last time that he doesn't care about this property. I've seen that girl. She's not bad. She can also make money. Don't think that you don't agree. Don't forget. She has someone behind her. So what? You what? Lu Xiyun saw that he didn't drink the tea she poured, but she wasn't angry. If you want to object, continue to object. Anyway, I don't have time to object. I'm still waiting to drink my wife's tea and hold my grandson. What do you mean? Do you want me to go to their house and propose marriage? Let them agree to marry their daughter to Ling Xan? If you can really do that, maybe your son will come back. It's best if he doesn't come back. If you have the ability, don't come back for the rest of your life. Ling Xan went upstairs in exasperation. Lu Xiyun looked at the old man's angry back and calmly took a sip of tea. Then, she asked the servant to bring out the yellow history. She had to choose a good day. Su Peijian sat in the car and looked at Ling Xan, who couldn't stop smiling. She was a little speechless. Can you stop smiling? I can't. I'm happy. Su Peijian resisted the urge to roll her eyes. I said it was okay. I only agreed to marry you. I didn't promise you when the wedding will be held. If I'm not satisfied with your performance, I can go back on my word at any time. Don't worry, there won't be a chance for you to go back on your word. Ling Xan? As he spoke, he looked at the red light in front of him and stopped the car. He leaned over and kissed Su Peijian on the cheek. I will prove it to you tonight. How satisfied I can make you. Ling Xan? Was she talking about that? I said that I'll try my best to make you satisfied. What are you thinking? Of course, if you want to be satisfied in that aspect, I can also do that. Don't worry, I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. Ling Xan? Su Peijian blinked and her lips moved. Forget it. In terms of shamelessness, she was really no match for him. However, she suddenly thought of something. Ling? You're only 25 years old? How many years younger than her? She had always thought that he was only a year or two younger than her. So what? A woman is 3 years older, holding a golden brick. Don't you like it? It's useless if you don't like it. It's too late. He saw that Su Peijian still wanted to say something. Ling Xan leaned over and kissed her on the cheek. Don't worry. I've checked. A woman is the most suitable combination. Because in a few years, when you're 30 years old and 40 years old, I, who is a few years younger than you, will be able to satisfy you better. Ling Xan? Could he not drag everything into that matter? I'm here. Wife, what can I do for you? Don't call me wife. Also. The light is green. Ling Xan? He stepped on the accelerator. Wife. Wife. Wife Ling. You're so annoying. Call me hubby. I won't. Call me hubby. Quick. I said I won't. Not yet anyway. Let's see if you'll call me that tonight. Chapter 892. Wulin Chinese Network. I will update my dear Mr. Hua as soon as possible. Su Peijian looked at the beautifully printed invitation card in front of her. She frowned. She had basically never asked about the wedding. Xiang Kaiping met with Lu Xiyun a few times and was almost done with the arrangements. Because of the wedding company, Su Peijian and Ling Jing didn't need to worry about these things. This was especially true for Lu Xiyun and Xiang Kaiping. It was the first time they were holding a wedding for their children, so they wanted it to be as grand as possible. In the beginning, the two of them had their differences. Xiang Kaiping favored the Chinese style. On the other hand, Lu Xiyun wanted a Western-style wedding. When he asked Ling Jing and Su Peijian, the two of them didn't care about the wedding at all. They just said that it was up to them to decide. Ling Jing was even more exaggerated. If you like it, let's have a Chinese-style one and a Western-style one. Are you crazy? If that was the case, Su Peijian would be the first to object. In the end, Lu Xiyun and Xiang Kaiping finally chose a compromise. At noon, the wedding would be held in a cathedral in Rome City. There was a lawn outside the cathedral. After the wedding, there was a buffet on the lawn. In the evening, the banquet would be held in a 5-star hotel in the city, and the friends and relatives of both sides would be invited. After the wedding was settled, Su-Peijan only asked about the details and didn't interfere much. She wasn't free. She was very busy because she planned to go on her honeymoon. He had to take care of business matters in advance. However, half a month before the wedding, when it was time to deliver the invitations, Su-Peijan looked at the invitation in front of her and suddenly felt a headache coming on. There was nothing much to say about Xiang Kaiping. They were all colleagues from the company and neighbors. A few friends. However, as for Su Chenghui, if she were to get married, the Su family would definitely invite him. Since the Su family was coming, Li Qianxue was naturally included. If Li Qianxue came, then Xiang Kaiping, what happened to you? When Ling Jing got home, she saw Su-Peijan sitting in front of the window, looking unhappy. Mom said you didn't eat much for dinner. What happened? Ling Jing had a social engagement tonight and didn't get home so soon, so when he came back, he had already eaten. Go away. Su-Peijan was annoyed and did not want to talk to Ling Jing at all. What's wrong with you? Why are you so angry? That's how angry I am. If you're impatient, you can leave. Su-Peijan replied without hesitation. Ling Jing stopped in his tracks. After thinking about it, he turned around and poured a glass of water for Su-Peijan. Drink some water to cool down. I won't drink it. I said, hurry up and leave. I don't want to talk to you. Su-Peijan waved her hand, and the cup in Ling Jing's hand flew out and fell to the ground. There was only a squeal on the thick carpet. Water splashed out, but it didn't break. Su-Peijan was taken aback by her own actions. Looking at Ling Jing, who seemed to be in a daze, she became more and more annoyed. Without thinking, he walked over to the bed and said, I'm very annoyed. Just ignore me. Ling Jing watched as Su-Peijan slept on the bed and pulled the blanket up to cover her head. She looked as if she didn't want to talk to anyone. He picked up the cup and put it aside. He walked over to the bed and sat down. He reached out and gently reached under the blanket to hold her hand. Are you okay? I'm fine. I just want to sleep. Go away. She wanted to pull her hand back, but Ling Jing wouldn't let her. Ling Jing glanced at the invitations on the table. There were still many unsigned names on them. He withdrew his gaze and squeezed Su-Peijan's hand. You want to invite an aunt? Are you afraid that your mother won't agree? After he got together with Su-Peijan, he had a meal with Su Chenghui and his wife. Ling Jing could roughly see Li Qianxue's personality even if they only had a meal together. Su-Peijan didn't speak, and Ling Jing knew that he had guessed correctly. You must invite Aunt Li to your wedding. If you don't feel comfortable, I'll help you. Silence. Su-Peijan didn't speak under the blanket. Ling Jing lifted the blanket for her a little and said, Aren't you afraid that you'll get sick with your head wrapped like this? She still didn't speak. Ling Jing patted the back of her hand and said, Okay. Let me handle the bad guys. Just say that it's my idea. I promise I'll help you invite both mothers. Is that okay? Su-Peijan looked up at him with slightly red eyes. Okay, it's not a big deal for you to do this. Su-Peijan pursed her lips into a straight line. In fact, she just wanted to please both sides, but she was afraid that neither side would please. After all that had happened before, she didn't want to hurt anyone. You. She had a bad temper, but her heart was softer than anyone else. Ling Jing held her hand and kissed it. But, wife, have you noticed that you've been a little grumpy lately? What do you mean? Su-Peijan, who was still touched, immediately exploded. Are you saying that I have a bad temper? No. Ling Jing explained with a smile, It doesn't matter how bad my wife's temper is. But, wife, haven't you noticed that you've been different recently? What's different? Su Peijian glared at Ling Jing as if he dared to say that she had become bad-tempered and unlikable, she would immediately kick him out. Wife. Ling Jing lowered his head and kissed her on the lips. Haven't you noticed that your good friend hasn't been here for 2 months? Su Peijian was stunned for a moment. She had been very busy recently, so she really hadn't noticed. Ling Jing, however, knew. Look, you've been sleepy lately, and your appetite is always bad. You don't want to eat. Your mother indulges you, saying that the weather is getting hot and you have no appetite. But I think you're pregnant. Pregnant women were always a little grumpy. It was understandable that their personalities were volatile. What did you say? Su Peijian lowered her head and looked at her stomach. It was flat, and now there was nothing there. You said I'm pregnant? Yes. That's impossible. Don't you always have protection? Protection can't guarantee 100%. What's more, when we just made up, sometimes we were excited, but we didn't take care of anything else. Su Peijian didn't speak. Ling Jing picked her up. Okay. Whether it is or not, we'll know when we go for a checkup tomorrow. Don't talk. Su Peijian closed her eyes. Let me be alone. She didn't expect to get pregnant so soon. Before, she heard Xiang Kaiping talk about having grandchildren every day. She even thought that it would be okay to give birth 2 years later. Okay, be quiet. Ling Jing's tone was very gentle. But if Su Peijian looked up at this time, she would see a flash of pride in Ling Jing's eyes. It was a look that seemed like a trick had succeeded. I haven't thought about giving birth yet. Su Peijian lowered her head, feeling a little conflicted. But you already have one. Ling Jing coaxed her. Are you going to abort it? Let me tell you first, your mother and aunt won't agree. Su Peijian was silent, and the twins in Su Qingsang's family flashed through her mind. I don't know how to take care of children, and I can't take care of them well. She pushed Ling Jing. She always felt that it was a little scary to take care of a little life. I don't need you to take care of them. My mother and your mother will help. Besides, can't you hire a nanny? If you don't want to see them, you can hire a nanny. Although that was what she said, in the past, Li Qianxue always held her in her arms and carried her all the time. Okay. It's not confirmed yet. Ling Jing held her shoulders. If there's anything, we'll talk after we go for a checkup tomorrow, okay? Su Peijian looked up at him. Ever since Ling Jing got together with her, he had been really good to her. He didn't seem angry when she lost her temper for no reason just now. Aren't you angry? Why should I be angry? I yelled at you, and I even broke the cup. You didn't. Ling Jing smiled. Besides, it's just a cup. You're the most important thing. Su Peijian didn't speak again. She was indeed very annoyed during this period of time, inexplicably annoyed. In fact, she didn't need to go for a checkup. When Ling Jing said that, she probably felt it. I'm just very annoyed. I don't know what I'm annoyed about. I know. Ling Jing hugged her and comforted her very carefully. Also, my mother and aunt. I'm very afraid that they will be unhappy when they are together. Because they don't like each other. But I want them to come when I get married. Come. They will all come. Don't worry. Ling Jing was very patient. If they don't come, I'll invite them. Don't worry. They will give me face. What face do you have? Isn't it my face? Yes. It's your face. But don't worry, leave this matter to me. I guarantee that everyone will be happy, okay? He had finished speaking. Su Peijian had nothing to say. Ling Jing, why aren't you angry? Why should I be angry? Ling Jing kissed her on the lips. You are my wife. I love you. Why would I be angry with you? Su Peijian looked into his eyes. His beautiful almond-shaped eyes were filled with her shadow. She pursed her lips and finally reached out to hug Ling Jing. Ling Jing. Yes? I love you, too. Yes. I know. Su Peijian closed her eyes. She still had a headache and was still uncomfortable. However, she said, let's go to the hospital tomorrow for a checkup. Yes, I'll listen to you. I'm hungry. What do you want to eat? Anything. Anything is fine. Okay, I'll go cook a bowl of noodles for you, okay? Okay. Ling Jing. Yes? I have a bad temper. Will you find me annoying one day? No. Ling Jing kissed the top of her head. I'm just afraid that you won't vent your temper on me. It's okay. I understand. Su Peijian's temper had always been with people who were close to her. Moreover, she was pregnant now. She didn't want to be like this. Ling Jing understood. I'm sleepy. Su Peijian yawned. But I'm so hungry. Then let's eat something first and then go to sleep. Yes. Su Peijian finally finished acting and was done fooling around. After eating a bowl of noodles, she fell asleep first. Ling Jing was left looking at her sleeping face, thinking of her last guilty look. He felt a little proud in his heart. He kissed her on the forehead and then hugged her to sleep. Acting was good. The more he acted, the better. If he acted too much, other men wouldn't be able to stand it. He could only be entangled with him for the rest of his life. The next day, Ling Jing took her to the hospital early for a checkup. It was just a pregnancy checkup, but Ling Jing arranged a specialist for her. He was very careful. From the ultrasound to the blood test, he did a routine checkup. One by one, he accompanied her the whole time. In the end, when he got the results, the smile on his face didn't stop. Honey, you're really pregnant. It had been more than 2 months. Yes. Su Peijian looked at the pregnancy test report, and for the first time, a strange emotion appeared in her eyes. Her hand subconsciously touched her upper abdomen. There was a small seed slowly growing there. It was really magical. Ling Jing, do you like boys or girls? I like both. Ling Jing looked at her. As long as it's your child, even if it's a ball, I like it. You're the one who gave birth to a ball. Su Peijian glared at him, but she couldn't hide the smile in her eyes. Let's go. Go home and tell Mom the news. Okay. Xiang Kaiping was excited to know that Su Peijian was pregnant. The smile on her face didn't stop at all. Su Peijian originally wanted to tell Li Qianxue that she was going to ask, but when she thought that Ling Jing said he would solve this matter, she simply didn't care. In the middle, she told Su Qingsang, Su Chenghui, and Li Qianxue the good news of her pregnancy. After receiving a lot of blessings, Li Qianxue and Su Chenghui went to her company to see her. They didn't go to her house, afraid that they would meet Xiang Kaiping. Therefore, she didn't know what to say about inviting Li Qianxue and the others to the wedding. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the wedding. Su Peijian didn't listen to Xiang Kaiping and set the wedding in May. That would be too hasty. The wedding was set at the end of June. The weather in Rong City was not too cold or hot. Su Peijian was wearing the wedding dress that Ling Jing had specially ordered from Paris and waiting in the lounge. According to the procedure, Su Chenghui should hold her hand and send her to the hall later. She had left this matter to Ling Jing before. She didn't know if Ling Jing had told Su Chenghui. The time was soon up. She looked at the door of the lounge, and her heart skipped 2 beats. The door opened, and Su Chenghui walked in. He was wearing a dark suit today, and there was a hint of relief in his eyes. Peijian? Dad. Congratulations. Thank you, Dad. This is a gift for you. Su Chenghui handed a box to her. I prepared it with your mother. Thank you. It's almost time. Let's go out. Okay. Su Peijian nodded and didn't ask him if Li Qianxue was there. She could understand if she didn't come. However, she still hoped that Li Qianxue could come. Accompanied by Su Qinghui, the two flower girls held the tail of her wedding dress behind her. She slowly walked into the church, and all the guests inside stood up. She immediately spotted Xiang Kaiping, who was sitting at the very front, and Li Qianxue, who was sitting on the other side. Su Peijian's eyes were hot, and she was almost in tears. As if he knew what she was thinking, Su Qinghui patted the back of her hand. Today is a big day. Don't cry. Su Peijian suppressed her emotions and walked forward step by step, getting closer and closer to the front. The two most important people in her life, her two mothers, stood there, one on the left and one on the right, clapping and looking at her. She sniffed and didn't want the tears to ruin her makeup. She smiled and walked forward. On the stage, Ling Jing was already waiting. He reached out his hand to her. Darling, you're so beautiful. That small compliment made her mood improve a little. She took the initiative to put her hand on Ling Jing's. Su Qinghui stood next to him and looked at Ling Jing very seriously. I give my daughter to you. You must make her happy. I will. Thank you, Dad. The wedding march sounded, and they faced the priest together. Mr. Ling Jing, are you willing to marry Ms. Su Peijian next to you, love her and be loyal to her, no matter if she is poor, sick or disabled, until she dies? Are you willing? I am. Ms. Su Peijian, are you willing to marry Mr. Ling Jing next to you, love him and be loyal to him, no matter if he is poor, sick or disabled, until he dies? Are you willing? I am. Thousands of twists and turns, this sentence seemed to have been said thousands of times. Groom, bride, exchange rings. Groom, you may kiss the groom. Now, I announce that you are legally married. Bless you. There was a warm applause under the stage. Su Peijian looked at Ling Jing's approaching face. Her excited emotions calmed down at this time. She had already decided on this man, so no matter what the future would be, she would walk with him. After the vows, there was a photo session of the bride and groom's family together. Su Peijian had never asked how Ling Jing told Li Qianxue and Xiang Kaiping. However, during the photo session, the two mothers stood on each side. Although they didn't talk to each other, there was no smell of gunpowder. It was a miracle for her. She couldn't help but turn her head to look at Ling Jing. He turned his face and kissed her on the lips. The moment the shutter was pressed, his voice was very soft. They all love you. Because they love you, they are willing to tolerate it. Because they love you, they are willing to let it go. Su Peijian's eyes were wet. Ling Jing hugged her and motioned for her to look at the camera. Don't cry. Today is a happy day. If you cry, I'm afraid the two mothers won't let me go. After the photo session, Xiang Kaiping stood to the side first. Some of the guests were her friends, and she had to entertain them. Li Qianxue looked in Xiang Kaiping's direction and held Su Peijian's hand. Congratulations. Thank you, Mom. Yes. Li Qianxue smiled, and her eyes were a little emotional. In the blink of an eye, you're going to get married. Although I'm not very satisfied with Ling Jing, since you've decided, I'm happy for you. Yes. If there's anything in the future, just tell me. If he makes you unhappy, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, Mom, I won't. Ling Jing changed his tune very quickly. Su Peijian glanced at her with a smile in her eyes. You're pregnant, so don't be too tired. I've already told your father to hire another person. Okay. Su Peijian knew that she was concerned about her, so she didn't object. Thank you, Mom. Silly child. Su Peijian sniffed and couldn't help but reach out to hug Li Qianxue. Li Qianxue patted her back gently, her eyes a little red. The daughter she had raised single-handedly had finally reached the day of her marriage. Sister, congratulations. Another voice rang out, and Su Yusen came over. Thank you. Su Peijian let go of Li Qianxue and looked at the person beside Su Yusen. She looked a little familiar, as if she had seen her many years ago. Congratulations. The obedient-looking little girl also congratulated him softly. Su Peijian frowned slightly and finally remembered who this little girl was. She looked at Su Yusen. She didn't expect that after going around in circles, they would still be together. It didn't matter if they had gotten lost midway. As long as the person by your side was the person you wanted to be with the most, it would be fine. She looked around. She loved those who loved her, all of them were here today. This was good. In fact, she was very happy. And she believed that this kind of happiness would last forever. Forever. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.